All right. Fantastic. It is Faith Family Sunday, which means we got a lot of stuff going on today. Every single month we do this once a month, and so it's an amazing time to be able to get together, to be able to hang out, fellowship, have some great time together. The kids are upstairs. I will say if your kids are up with you and you ever need to check out for just a minute, go downstairs. There's a nursery space. Feel free to use that, and or if you want to just step outside and head to the ramp or whatever you need to do is totally fine. Also, here at Faith, we're pretty doggone informal most of the time. So if you need to get up at any point during the experience, feel free to do so. The restroom is to your left, my right in the cafe. You can squeeze past a few folks to be able to get there. And then Jude is in the back. He's ready to serve you lattes, hot or cold, or whatever you want. You can get in the cafe at any point this morning. I'm also super excited about today because along with Faith Family Sunday and all the kids being up here with us, an amazing family time we're going to have later. It's our first ever chili cook-off today. Everybody excited about that? Yeah. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to that. I'll explain the process to how that's going to work a little bit later about what that means and how we're going to do the tasting and the voting and all that fun stuff. But by the time we get to the end of our time together today, we're going to have our very first Faith Chili Champion, and I'm super excited to be able to see who that's going to turn out to be, right? I think you might get a prize. You're going to have a little prize. It's going to be pretty cool, right? So at any rate, so man, before we get to that fun stuff, before we get to this amazing chili and everybody that's taking part in that, thank you for making that and bringing and just supporting that effort. I want to get to a couple of things here this morning before we get to the message. And first, that is to thank you and encourage you. Last week, we opened up a hurricane relief fund on our platforms, whether they're online or on our app, for you to give to, and you guys came through in a big way, and I want to continue to encourage you to continue to give to that. If you want to give physically into that effort, please just mark your giving in some way so we know. If there's little sticky notes you give, whatever. If you're giving cash, or write your check to hurricane relief so we know that that's available to go to that fund. If you're giving online, it's really easy. You can just find the fund in our Church Center app, and it takes it right into that fund. We don't have to do anything with it. It just goes right there, and then we can give it out to those in need. I also want to thank you for your regular tithe and offering each week. I don't put a major emphasis on this week to week, but I want to do that today because I think it's important for you to understand what a difference that you're making and how God is using your sacrificial giving to reach others in this community. He really is. I could throw a bunch of numbers out to you today, but I didn't want to do numbers. What I wanted to do, I think, is more importantly to do, rather, is to tell you who your giving affects and how you're making an impact through your sacrificial giving. See, because you faithfully give each week, we've been able to give a mom money so she could take her kid to the doctor during the week. Because you've been giving, we've been able to provide building materials for a family renovating a camper so they could live in, so they don't have to be in a tent in the backyard. Because you've been giving, we've been able to give groceries to a single mom, provide blankets to a homeless man, to help a family pay for a better education for their children, to bless families with funds when their heating goes out or when their car breaks down. All because you've given, we're able to meet those needs in this community in a way that none of us on our own individually can. Because you give each and every single week, we can do things like Pownal Day, which is free of charge to the whole community, reaching hundreds of people in our town. We can do things like Candy Palooza, which is going to happen at the end of this month, where we do a big candy blast the last Sunday of October. It's going to be amazing. We could do that for our kids. We could feed Faith Teens when they're going to start a youth group time here in the next few months. It's going to be amazing as they get the opportunity to have pizza because you gave so they can have that each and every single time they come together. And because you give, we were able to bless people like the pastor from Wales and his wife who came last week, Ian and Anna. Maybe you're watching online, Ian and Anna. I don't know if you are today, but if you are, thank you for visiting us last week and being with us. We're able to give them funds for their trip, for their church, to be able to bless them. We can send supplies to hurricane relief, and we can save up for trips overseas to spread the gospel. What an amazing thing this church is. It just blows me away every single time because none of this is possible without obedient, faithful, sacrificial giving. It's because when we give God our best and our first of our finances, of our time, of our talent to the local church, this place becomes the biggest force for heaven on earth this community has ever and will ever see. Ever. You've done it so far. It's just amazing. I'm blown away by your generosity every single time, and I want to continue to encourage you to press on and keep doing that because God's got big plans for Faith Church. He's got some really big things coming up that I don't even know where the money's going to come from. I have no idea, but I know that it's going to come through because he comes through, and because as people are obedient and faithful, he comes through in those moments. And so I want to press in on you. If you've given, thank you so much for giving. If you haven't given or wondering, hey, does it really matter if I give? If I can't give, does it any big deal? One, know that everything you give matters. All right, every single thing, not just finances, but your time, your ability, everything you do matters in this place. And then two, if you haven't, I want to encourage you to do that, because not only will it be a blessing to your life, but it'll be a blessing to this community in a way that you can't touch singularly on your own. So I want to encourage you to continue to do that, or give for the first time today before you leave, and watch as your giving blesses this community in a real tangible way. Second thing, every Faith Family Sunday, we want to highlight another incredible individual, another inspiring individual in our Faith Church family that serves faithfully and leads in our church. And this week is Carrie Snide. Yeah. Many of you know Carrie, maybe either here at church or in the community or at Grace Christian School as she works there. My family and I have grown to know and love her for the past 9 years as friends, as neighbors. We're really close together, so it's really great. It's been just amazing. And each week, she either serves here or she coordinates the rotation of a team in the back that does all the media. So if you're watching online, it's because she's put in work during the week. If you're watching in the cafe, it's because she's done amazing work. If you're listening to my voice in any way, she's contributed to that in a way that I'm just so grateful for, and that she's faithfully serves week in and week out. She makes it all possible. And so she gave me some fun facts that she wanted to share with you guys. So I want to read a few of those off. Her first fun fact, which I thought was hilarious, all right? I just say, hey, give me some fun facts, right? I know some things about you. I've known you a while, but what do you think is important? Her first fun fact is I am left-handed, all right? Which I love. It's perfect, right? So understated. I'm left-handed, right? And then she likes to research things. She helped her sister and brother-in-law renovate their house, which I'm sure they're grateful for. And eventually we'll pay her back in some way. I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe they fed her. I don't know how it works. I don't know. She loves hiking and kayaking, and she learned Spanish, and she's been to Guatemala more times than she can remember, and loves spending time with friends and family. So just an amazing individual. Join me in thanking Carrie. Amen. Thank you so much, Carrie. Appreciate it. Awesome. Finally, my wife did mention this. I will just give a brief update on that. If you have a piece of paper in your hand for Operation Christmas Child, we're going to take a break in just a minute. During that break, it's going to be tight because there's a lot of folks in this place. But if you can fill it out and then deposit it where? On the Connect table, right? In the Connect table. No, not on the Connect table. There's a basket in the back. All right. I was told it was going to be on the Connect table in my defense, but that's fine. It's in the basket in the back. You probably just said that. All right, so if you could fill them out before you leave and put them in the basket in the back, that would be amazing. What I love about that is there's some child around the world who has no clue who you are, but yet is still going to be blessed by knowing you took just a few minutes to write out some of your favorite things about yourself, where you live, describe what this place looks like to you from your perspective, and they're going to be able to see it and be able to unpack that box and know that someone cared enough to take even just 5 minutes to fill that paper out and be such a blessing. You get to show them Jesus in a way that they might not ever experience there. So it's such a blessing. I encourage you to fill that out before you leave. All right, so today we're part 2 of our 3-part series called Find Your People, and it's an important 3 weeks because we talked about as Americans last week that we are lonelier than ever before, all right? I'll give you more numbers later, but a recent poll reported that 30% of millennials feel lonely, and 0 of those 30% had close friends. 0 close friends for millennials in our generation. We're more connected than ever before electronically, but we're on a really fast trend to be the truly most disconnected culture the world has ever known. So how do we start reversing that trend? Because it's led us to some pretty bad situations personally and as a country and as a culture. How do we start reversing that trend? We're going to take a look at how we do that today in just a moment as we are thinking about that and as we're getting into the rest of the experience this morning, we're going to take a quick break to help facilitate a little connection, right? To get us a little better known to each other. And so we're going to take 5 minutes. Feel free to grab a coffee if you can get to the coffee bar. If you can't, that's all right. Feel free just to stand up, stretch out, move around a little bit, get to know each other a little bit better. As you're doing that, we're going to have a great song playing, and then just come back to your seats when the song's getting ready to wrap up. And then you have a question that we're going to ask and answer of each other because we love doing that. The question is this: what do you do when you have an entire evening to yourself? All right. Now, I know some of you don't ever have an evening to yourself, right? So just imagine what that might be, all right? If you have an evening to yourself, what does that look like? Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back. As we're getting settled back in, I failed to point out we don't make a point to be able to say, hey, if you're new here, and we don't want to put you on the spot, but we do have some folks who are joining us from out of town, and I have no problem putting them on the spot because they volunteered to come up here, all right? So we have a good crew from Dothan, Alabama, all the way up here this week, so let's welcome those guys. Thank you so much. This is this crazy church, right? We got people from Wales, we got people from Dothan. I don't know which part of the country or different part of the world is stranger than Dothan or Wales, but Texas, we got some people from Texas. Yeah, that might be the weirdest of them all. Nobody knows where that's at. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to share with each other this morning. We got a question. Feel free to keep chatting up. Hey, and if you're waiting for a coffee, feel free to keep going and get some more. At any point, again, you need to go get it something, you need to go to the restroom, you need to grab another latte. Don't stop. Just keep going, all right? Jude's ready to keep pushing through. He's going to help you out, and there's going to be more coffee brewed. So don't feel like, oh, I'd missed out on coffee. Get some, all right? It's there. Get some before you leave here today, all right? Awesome. So let's talk about this question together. What do you do when you have an entire evening to yourself? We got a gentleman up here. Where are you at, Rich? He's going to help out this morning. He's going to walk around. He's going to point that microphone at your face.
Yeah.
When he does, you need to say something important. All right? So go ahead,
I'm
Dave.
going to start it off
you get
this
it started.
morning.
Go ahead.
Okay. I like to go into, and most men will appreciate this, I like to go in my nothing box, where you think about nothing. I know that's not possible for most of you gals out there, but we can do that. We can actually sit there and think of nothing, right? So that's my thought.
Every Tuesday, everybody goes to music practice here at church. And so for those 2 hours, I actually go take a nice bath with some candles, and then I play Zelda.
Wow.
Right next to him. Hey, Rich, sorry, right? Oh. Z's catch. I just figured you catch him right now.
I like to play Zelda.
Yeah.
In the bathtub with candles? No. All right.
I usually have been spending my evenings going online and witnessing to teenagers on Discord because most of the time they don't have any social life, and
Right.
the only way they communicate with people is through video games.
Absolutely.
And I've had a lot of gospel opportunities that way, and I praise God for that.
Yeah, awesome. We'll get you.
I become a couch potato.
A couch potato. Right behind you, Rich. Turn around to Chelsea. We'll get back to you, Jen.
Lay in my bed.
Lay in your bed. Bed potatoes. Right back over here in the middle again. We'll just get you back and forth.
Every day I learn about 10 minutes of Japanese.
Oh, very cool.
Right.
I would watch lots of movies.
Watch a movie. Awesome. Got one in the very back, but keep going this way. We'll work around back to you, Rogan.
I play on my phone.
Play on your phone. That's good.
This was a long time ago. My wife went to the Patriots training camp with her niece and her sister-in-law, and it was during the 4th of July, the weekend up here that they have the fireworks. I was like a little lost puppy. I followed my basset hound around.
He didn't follow you. You followed it.
Usually, if it's a Friday night, I'll grab a pizza from Cozy Corners, put on a football game, and hopefully I can stay awake before the first half is over.
I tinker with fishing tackle.
There you go. That's it.
I like to go out there and do some mechanic work down south. We call it putting the rear end in a recliner.
Go ahead, Rogan.
So, it doesn't happen a lot, but when I do have free time and I am home by myself, I monopolize the living room and watch TV
Gotcha.
and tune out everything else.
There you go. Fantastic. All right, Zach's got one over here too. Right over here.
Where?
Keep going to the Bright Connect wall.
It doesn't happen often, but when I have a little bit of free alone time, I like to go out in the barn and hang out with my goats and my dog.
There you go. The goats and the dogs. I love it. Anybody else? Anybody in the cafe we missed? Oh, we got one over here. We got at least have her brother pointing at his sister who might not want to say it, but she's going to now.
Staying up until 11 watching my show.
Yeah, there you go. Staying up late, watching whatever you want to watch. Awesome. Very cool. All right. Anyone else? Those are all great. Oh, one more. Miss Jan's got one in the middle.
I love to read.
Love to read. Yes, good book by yourself. All right. Everybody's good? Oh, we got two more.
Where?
One up front and then one in the cat. Oh, you're gonna get him back? All right, good. We're gonna get back to you then.
Eating food.
Eating food by yourself, whatever you want to eat. Oh, Naomi's got it.
I like to believe that I'd probably crochet or draw, but I'd probably just be on my phone.
All right, back in the cafe for you. We got another one again.
Work out or play some video games.
There you go. Work out and play. You might do both. You might pull both off. All right, fantastic. Oh, we're going up here.
Where?
Up front.
Okay. After this, the service is over.
Play with my cat.
Play with the cat. Yes. Love it. Joe, what you got, Joe?
Free time? Well, do whatever my wife tells me to do.
Good answer.
Say watch Frozen. Nope.
I think it was Watch Frozen.
Okay, there we go. Very cool. Anyone else? Great job, man. Awesome. Man, as someone with a wife and 7 kids, I had to think long and hard this week because I rarely ever have any alone time in my life. Evenings alone are a super rare occurrence. But if I find myself, and typically what happens is I take Monday off, right? So I take Monday off, and so I sleep in because I'm a night owl anyway by nature. I just can't do it during the week. So Sunday nights, I'll stay up till like 3 in the morning, and then I'll play video games because all the kids are asleep, right? So I can finally get some video game time in because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, right? So I play video games all the time, and that's what you did, right? As a kid growing up, as my friends come over, we play video games together before you could do it online. We even hooked up. We had a LAN. Anybody? Okay. Y'all don't know this. Some of y'all might know what a LAN party is, all right? We'd have LAN parties, all right? All right, some of you do know, all right? Great, all right. So we had LAN parties. It was an amazing time, so we'd hang out and do that. So anytime I can get to play video games alone, I take advantage of that, with nobody distracting me. That's when I'm at my best. Matter of fact, I got 2 college football dynasties going on right now in CFP 25, so I'm pretty good at that. But other than that, I'm not really good at anything else, but that's all right. But if I'm away from home, though, I love sitting down and I'll get a good book when I'm detached myself away from everything else, and I'll start a fire. And so I'll read the book until the sun goes down, then I'll start a fire and then watch it till it goes out. That's my favorite pastime if I'm not around a TV, all right? So it's great. It's a great thing to do just all by yourself. So while you're thinking about those and while you're talking about those, maybe you're thinking in your head of the things you've been through and what you typically do. What I noted is, obviously this is activities alone, but increasingly more often as we get into our culture today, most of the things that we do, as we just highlighted here on one of those answers on Discord, right? Most of the things we do are socially isolating activities, right? In regards to at least face-to-face. All right, most of us, if we have any sort of time, we're going to take it away from somebody else, and we're going to do something that's by ourselves to fill ourselves up, right? To be able to have that alone time. And it really shows there's the result of a trend that's been happening, especially the past 15 years, right? Where we've been consistently trending to more socially isolating, independent activities. And while it doesn't seem like a big deal, here's the reality. The Surgeon General of the United States issued an 80-page paper, an advisory, naming the single biggest threat facing our mental and physical health in America. It's more dangerous to our physical health than diabetes, than obesity, and than even smoking 14 cigarettes a day. And that problem is loneliness. Loneliness is worse to our public health than smoking 14 cigarettes a day. A day. And I think at some level we all know it. I think at some level we all felt it. And for our purposes today, I want to define that as loneliness as this consistent psychological state that arises when we lack the intimate and the authentic relationships that we need to thrive. And guess what? 2 out of 3 people in America today would say that they're lonely. 2 out of 3. Over 60% of people feel it, although less than 12% of people will admit it and talk about it. So I want to show this to you this morning just so you have an idea of what exactly we're dealing with. Do this little exercise with me, will you? If your last name starts with the letters A through P, raise your hand. A through P. Now, some of you got to sing the alphabet song. A, B, C, D, right? So that's N-O-P, right? And there's Q-R-S after that, right? So A through P. Keep them up. A through P, keep them up right here. Okay. Look around. Statistically, this is your church being lonely. This is your community being lonely. This is your school. This is your house. This is all those things in your life, all these places where people gather. That many people around you are lonely. But only 12%, only 1 out of every 6 or 10 people you see around you is going to actually say they're lonely. 2 out of 3 people are struggling with that. So if you're one of those who held your hand up, and maybe you didn't hold your hand up, but you've been there and you've experienced that, the first thing I want to say to you before we say anything else about this topic is that you're not alone in feeling alone. And you're not lonely because you're not successful enough or not because you're not good enough. It's not because you're unlikable. It's not because you're unlovable. It's not because you're unlucky or unworthy. You are not extra difficult. You're not extra annoying. You're probably a little bit of those things, but everybody else is anyway. You're not exceptional in those things. And so I want to make sure that you don't feel ashamed, that you're not embarrassed this morning when you're thinking about your situation, because our loneliness is not an accusation of our unworthiness. It's simply a signal. It's a signal that's given by our body and our mind that's telling us that we have this unmet need for connection, this unmet divine design in us that God has placed within us that we need. You see, loneliness is not a me problem. Loneliness is not a you problem. It's actually a we problem. You see, our collective loneliness is actually the result of a culture that we're all in this room are co-creating and co-building and co-designing together. This isn't something that someone's forced on you or that even someone you forced on yourself, but we have this social structure that we've arranged where it enforces the idea of spending time alone. You see, when you build a house these days, you don't put a front porch on it, you put an attached garage, don't you? Right? You put, Dave's been wanting a garage a long time. Every time I think about garages, I think about you, Dave. You want a garage, right? There's nothing wrong with a garage, but we want a garage, right? We get bigger and bigger lot sizes. How many acres can I have around me so I don't have to see my neighbor, right? If I see my neighbor, it's too close, right? We keep our faces in our phones. We keep our faces on social media. We rely on things like DoorDash and Uber, which I love. I love those convenient things. But we design our entire culture with the primary value of convenience, of independence, of privacy, and of comfort. Think about it. Think about every single thing that we do. Tesla, as a matter of fact, I watched that. I was excited, and because I love futuristic things, it really intrigued me. They released their latest product line, and they have a robo-taxi, a robo-van, and a house robot, like a C-3PO, walking around your house, right? It's called Optimus. It can do like anything a person can do, and it can be like your best friend. They even announced that they said, "We have your new friend." Blew me away. And I love the idea of the convenience of it. Like, oh, great, I have somebody clean my house for me. Sweet, great, that's amazing. I mean, once my kids are gone, right? It's because I got them cleaning now. But, once they're gone, I can have someone else clean my house for me. That sounds great. But we do these things just like that. We don't need a driver. right? We don't need someone to come and help us clean our house. We don't need someone to do our laundry or even just be a friend who does laundry with us while we go together to the laundromat. We don't need a laundromat. We got our own laundry in the house. All these things we design our culture around these days revolves around how do we get ourselves to ourselves, right? Everything. And we see results from this design all over the place. I want us to take a look at just one together real quick. We got a video. I love videos. Let's throw a video. We got to throw that video up here. And I want you to watch this as it goes on. It's going to come up any minute now. Watch this video. So this video, as you're watching this, is about how people hook up. All right? About how people get connected relationally, intimately in a relationship. How do they find each other? And so over the years, it started out where as friends and family. And watch, as the years tick by, you watch this number down here. Watch this one. Keep watching. This is over 100 years. All the 90s. They were amazing. All right, here we go. Now watch this. The scale isn't big enough. You got to keep it. 60%. Now watch. Well, sorry, you can't do that now. It's fine. You don't have to go back to it. It'll roll the whole video. Don't do it again. But you notice as that happened, right, that you go back and you'll see friends and family. You'll see all these things, all these social networks that we've built for ourselves from the very beginning of time until now have been completely flipped upside down for a model of what was promoted as convenience and efficiency, right? How can I find my next intimate partner? Well, I'll just go on an app like Tinder, and I'll flick through and I'll find 50 dates, right? I can find somebody that an algorithm says is going to match you perfectly, right? He's going to give you the best shot at having the best life you could possibly have with someone over a long period of time. And the data hasn't bear this out because we have enough years yet, but I'm going to imagine that the marriage and divorce rates are not going to be any better, probably worse than they were before that, right? That the successful, happy marriages are not going to be any better, probably worse than you had before that. Because when you disconnect from those social networks, not only in finding a partner for your life, but also how you live with that partner in your life, you're going to find yourself in need of somebody else at every turn. And when you start out without that network bringing you together, it's hard to connect to that network later on. And you find yourself in struggles in relationships. But we have this in every part of our society, not just in relationships, intimate relationships, but every single part of our society. And as a result, every age group and demographic in the U.S. today is lonelier than ever before. Less than 1 out of every 5 moms feel that they can trust their community with their faults and their weaknesses. Let me say that one again. Less than 1 in 5 moms feel they can actually open up to someone in their community and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. Men in particular are 5 times lonelier in friendship than they were in 1990. For the first time in recorded human history, our young people are lonelier than the sick and the elderly. You see, we're in need of connection. We just don't realize how bad we're in a need for connection. There's this amazing story that you may be familiar with in the Bible, or maybe you're not familiar with it, but it's about Jesus and it's about his disciples. It's the night before his death, and they'd all just shared a final meal together, and Jesus had led them out to a garden to pray. It had been a really, really long day, and everybody was really worn out. And so Jesus calls all 12 of his disciples. He calls them to this garden to go together, and then he calls 3 of his very closest friends to go a little deeper into the garden with them. And he says, hey, I'm going to go pray. You stay here. You stay awake while I go take this to the Father. Maybe you remember this story. Do you remember what happens? If you do remember the story, do you remember what happens here? Anybody remember what happens? Do they stay awake? No. No, they don't. Jesus prays, and they fall asleep. He comes back. He says, hey, wake up. He goes back and prays, and what do? Fall asleep. He goes back and prays, and he comes back again. Are they awake? They're not awake. 3 times he does this. Now, I've read that and I've given messages from that, and I often come away with the idea that in this scene, in this moment, what the scripture is trying to convey is that Jesus is this really amazing human, right, who's carrying this huge burden of the whole world on his back, but he can go in and he can persevere. But these frail, weak, almost useless disciples, man, they can't hang. They cannot hang with Jesus. He's like this superhuman. They're just not. And it's like, man, it just really pinpoints the amazingness of God and Jesus and the frailty of humanity. And while there is something to that, there's also something else here that we can easily overlook. It's Matthew 26, verse 36 and 38. It's going to be up on the screen. If you have a Bible, you can turn there. You can highlight it. You can do whatever. You can open up on your app if you want to as well, because it says this, and I want to highlight here this moment in this scene. It says, Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane. And when he said to his disciples there, he said, hey, sit here while I go over there and pray. And taking with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And he said to them, my soul is very sorrowful, even to death. To remain here and watch with me. What Matthew records here isn't confident, got it all together Jesus, does he? You see those moments in Jesus' life where he's sleeping, the storm's raging around him, he gets up, he just rebukes it, and everybody's like, how can you have it all together, right? You don't see that Jesus here. Instead, he records this very real, very powerful moment where he's facing a moment of greatest struggle. In the moment of this greatest struggle in his life, Jesus opens up in a very real and very vulnerable way. He knows what's coming. He knows that the greatest moment of pain, anguish, everything, the weight of the whole world literally is going to be weighed on him. And instead of facing it alone, he does this. He says, hey, 12, I need you. I need you to come. All right, now we're all here. Great, you guys sit here and pray. Now take the three of my very best friends in this world. And I want you to be here with me. I need you to be here with me. And he walks into the garden a little further on. Each step they go in together, the three and Jesus, they begin to see this different side of Jesus, don't they? He begins to break down and confesses that as they walk, that it feels like his very soul is being crushed with grief. He feels as if he's about to die from this pressure on him. Imagine this, the God-man, the one who calms storms, the one who walked on water, the one who opens blind eyes, the one who raised the very dead, begins pouring his heart out to these three guys saying, man, God, hey, I know you've seen some pretty crazy things. And I know that I've looked like I had it all together. But tonight I want to thank you. I want to thank you for walking with me. Because the thing is, I want to be strong for you. I really want to be strong for you right now. But I got to be honest. I might not make it through this night. I got to go pour this thing out to God right now. But I need you with me. Will you stay and pray with me tonight? Right here in his last hours on earth, the God of the universe is showing us that we actually need each other. This is what Jesus did. This isn't a failure. This isn't a weakness. This isn't a flaw. It's a feature of being made in the image of God. It's part of the design. It's showing us, Jesus shows us here what it looks like to lead by going first in that effort, though, right? He doesn't lead with power. He doesn't lead with privilege. He doesn't lead with having it all together. He leads with humility and with honesty and with vulnerability by pouring out his heart to three of his very best friends in the middle of a really dark night. How many dark nights have we sat through alone? How many dark days? How many dark weeks? How many dark months? How many dark years have we been prisoners to our pride? How many dark nights have we been slaves to our stubbornness? Have we been captives to our guilt, sitting alone in the middle of those times? How many moms here have spent sleepless night after sleepless night running on fumes. But when asked if there's anything that can be done to help you, you say, no, I'm good. It's just a phase, man. We'll get through this. It's a busy time, all right? My kids are small, or we're just busy with sports, or we got all this going on, but it's just a phase. We'll make it through. How many men here have sat in your truck alone after work or on the deer stand on the weekend, trying to buy time to find an escape because the bills are piling up and there isn't enough work and that lands on you? And you're in this constant fight, maybe your wife or your girlfriend, and there's this little boy or girl in the house that needs you, but you don't know if you could walk in that door and battle that battle just to meet that child's need. You don't know if you can do it. And all these things are running through your head. How many kids or teenagers here wake up each day before you go to school, and you know there's somebody at school, or so many people at school, they're going to say and do things to you that you're not ready for, that you don't know if you can go through another day of that. And so you wake up in the morning, you lay in bed, and you just hope that you'll get sick enough that you won't have to go to school that day. See, we all do these things. We all walk in the darkness alone. But what this moment in Jesus' life and in his ministry shows us is that we are made to not do it alone. We are not made to do this alone. We're made for each other. You see, if the God of the universe took 3 close friends with him to pray in his darkest hour, who are we to think we can do it by ourselves? And though those disciples failed that night, those same disciples carried that same model with them, and God grew his church through these men who saw a vulnerable Jesus and recognized the only way to healing, the only way to hope, the only way to defeating death, hell, and loneliness is by getting over ourselves and living our life with and for one another. Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus. He said this, he said to walk with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love. James wrote to followers of Jesus. He said, therefore confess your sins to one another, pray for one another that you may be healed. He's not saying don't pray to God, but watch what he said. Don't just pray to God. Therefore confess your sins to one another, pray for one another that you may be healed. Peter wrote later on, he says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers this multitude of sins. Keep loving one another earnestly. Over and over and over again, there's this heavenly call to live life together in a radically, in our situation, radically countercultural way. Now, for many of us, that starts by simply opening up with each other. There are needs that you have that nobody knows about. There are battles that you're facing alone, and there's this reality that you can pray to Jesus, and I highly encourage this, but you can pray to Jesus, and he may bring about supernatural victory and freedom in your life for you in those things when you humble yourself and bring yourself to them, and that may happen. I will not deny that. But what I will guarantee, what I know with 100% certainty, is that he is most definitely going to fulfill that promise of healing in your life through connecting you with others in a church like this. But you have to respond to that call in your life by opening up and being humble first and being vulnerable first. Because here's the thing. You aren't actually ever going to find community. You're not actually ever going to stumble into community. But Jesus, and what he does is he builds community. He calls you to join in that building. And that means that most likely what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go first. You're going to have to go first. You're going to have to make changes in your own life that you need to create space, that you need so that you're going to build, to prioritize, to lead to people in community. You've got to take the initiative. You've got to take that initiative. You've got to keep showing up, even when people reject you. Because they will, over and over and over again. But from a relational perspective, it means you have to go first. You have to lead with authenticity and vulnerability in your life. You see, do you know how you do this? How we create a community where people feel like they can trust the community with their faults and with their weaknesses? Do you know how we do that? You go first with yours. You go first with yours, because here's the thing. You can say, just call me if you need anything. And I say that all the time. I am the chief offender of this. Just call me if you need anything. Let me know. Just shoot me a text if you need anything. You can do that till you're blue in the face. You can bring all the meals. You can say all the prayers, and that is all amazing and great. Do not stop doing those things. I'm not saying that. But if you don't go first in confessing your sins, if you don't go first in sharing your grief, if you don't go first in sharing what your longing and desire is for your life, in sharing about your very fears, in sharing your disappointments and your burdens by saying, hey, I might need some help today. And by not accepting help from others, if you don't do those things, you're not going to be able to build community. You're not going to be able to come into a place where people actually believe you care or that they can be vulnerable to you. They're not going to open up first. You have to open up first. You want to see a church where people genuinely connect on a deeper fundamental level and not just be like, oh, how was your week? Oh, my week was good. All right, great. See you next week. You want to connect with someone on a level that goes beyond the surface. You have to say, hey, Dave, man, I'm hurting this week. You have to say, hey, Carrie, man, I've been through some stuff this week and I just need to unpack it. Will you just listen for a minute? Can I tell you what I'm going through? You have to be real first. And as you do that, people aren't going to look at you and say, man, your life is really jacked up, man. This is horrible, right? What are you telling me all this for? They're not going to do that. Because what they're doing, and when you're saying that, they're thinking the exact same things that's going on in their lives. They're thinking, you know what, man, you're right, man. I understand what you're going through. I've been there. I'm there, maybe even right now. You have to open up first to start to build community that Christ is calling us to build. We talked last week about how our call as individuals is to bring heaven to earth in our generation. Our call as individuals is to bring heaven to earth in our generation. That happens in a Christ-centered community. That means getting into the muck with others. That means making a choice to spend time with others in the church and to bring unbelievers into those Christ-focused relationships instead of doing something you may feel more comfortable doing by yourself. It means making plans to eat together. It means making plans to walk together, to lose weight together, maybe to gain weight together, Sharon, right? It means taking time to get to know them, not just to see them on a Sunday, not just to text them, how you doing this week, which I do a lot of that because I hate calling you on the phone. I'm sorry, I just hate it with a passion, all right? So I text. It's better than just going on social media and saying, man, how's it going this week, right? Connecting with them face to face, making time to be with somebody as often as you can. You see, what Christ imitated and what he calls us to is this radical countercultural move away from independence to interdependence and to reconnection beyond that surface level problems we all have and get down into the deep part of life together. And I know that's hard for people in Pownell, Vermont. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. I know that if you're a Vermonter, all right, I've been here long. I'm not a Vermonter, all right? Don't claim to be, all right? Don't come in with pitchforks at me, all right? I'm just saying, I'm not one. But I've been around a little while, and I try to listen as best I can, and I know that you are hardworking, that you are independent, fiercely independent, right? That you've got everything you need, and you don't need anybody for anything. I got it. You're self-sufficient. I'm happy for you, right? And that all sounds good. And I like it too. I might not be from here, but I know it. I experience that same thing. I like that. And while it looks good, while it looks good to others, doesn't it, when you have it all together? You watch that person broken down the side of the road and you come up and you're like, I got the chain, I got the jumper cables, I got everything you need. Watch me help save your life right now. I can do it for you, right? I can do it. That feels good when you're doing that, right? You don't want to be that broke down person, right? You're that broke down person, you're like, no, I got this, I'm good. How are you going to get the truck home? I'll push it or something. I don't know. I don't need your help. I'll figure it out. Triple A. I'll call somebody I don't know, right? And while it's good, feels good, looks good, makes us feel good to be self-sufficient, Here's the truth, and this is a biblical truth, not Jason's truth. It is fundamentally flawed and completely out of step with God's plan for his people. That's hard. That's hard to hear, it's hard to take. When you say, man, everything I've built my life on, you're telling me is here, and God's plan is here. How can that be? How can I live my whole life this way and thinking, I just need to pray to Jesus, I can do personal relationship stuff, I can, make time when I have time, and God's saying, yeah, you can do all those things, and that's okay. But your call isn't for self-sufficiency, independent living, just amazing life that you can do by yourself. It's called to be vulnerable and interdependent in a way that makes you uncomfortable. It will make you uncomfortable. Now, this isn't because you're messed up, but again, because the culture has designed our lives in such a way, is that you're fed into it. This is how you've grown up. This is how you're raised. This is how you live. But we have a calling to change that in this generation. Because heaven doesn't look like that. And if our job is to bring heaven to earth, is to live as if heaven is on earth with this new lens of looking at the world, we have to get out of how we think we need to operate and operate in line with God. Now, I can't make it happen for you, but I can give you opportunities. We mentioned last week that you might not like it, but we do offer groups, right? We have groups you can join, right? We talked about groups last week that you could get involved in. We talked about hopping on a serve team here on Sundays or during the week. There's serving opportunities during the week here at Faith. We talked about coming on the cafe at Saturday mornings. We got great people serving on Saturday mornings, bringing a friend and hopping in on a Saturday morning, right? Picking up a coffee from the cafe and maybe even taking it to someone. Maybe you just come and grab a coffee and you go to Ladbrook and you sit down with somebody who wants to have a conversation, right? Somebody who doesn't have anybody that wants to talk to them during the week. Maybe you're that person. Maybe it means joining in as we take teams to help with recovery or share the gospel in hurricane-stricken areas or all these places affected by all these crazy disasters going on. Or it may just be something as simple as staying after church, as sharing a meal with us, getting to know somebody that you might sit next to every single week. In the hopefully near future, I believe it means the realization of a vision that God has laid out for our church. The creation of a new type of housing community here in our very town with new homes built for singles, for couples, for families, all designed in such a way that it encourages this exact mode of interdependent living with shared meeting spaces, with shared volunteer opportunities, with shared communal activities, dedicated times even of prayer together, and even a couple of tiny homes dedicated to people coming out of addiction recovery programs. So that when they come out of those places, they come and they exist and live and breathe and begin to truly live for the first time with a community that's willing and ready to wrap their arms around them. A real tangible place that you can feel and see and exist in. It's like nothing else that this world has to offer. There's a great need in our country, there's a great need in our community, and even in this church to start to fight back against loneliness. And there's also this incredible opportunity for us, especially as believers, to do that by simply living according to God's design for us. In a world full of lonely, isolated people, I personally cannot imagine a more winsome witness than to be a people who live increasingly countercultural in a way that prioritizes connection and community and radically caring, knowing, and showing up for one another and living out heaven on earth together. I don't know who your people are. I don't know what people you came from. But what I pray and what I know is that God is calling his people together. And I pray that you find your people here at this church. So this morning, if you're a seeker, what we call seekers, if you're somebody who doesn't know Jesus, you're somebody who's like, man, I know of Jesus. I may even said I believe in Jesus, but I haven't trusted Jesus enough to step out of my comfort zone and to live differently than ever before. Today is an opportunity to do that. If you're a believer and you're in this space and you're like, man, I don't know, Pastor, you're talking about us opening up and sharing some things that I don't know if I'm ready to share. You're talking about me opening up and being vulnerable in a way that I'm not ready for. You're talking about maybe living at some point down the road, maybe living in a physical community with somebody that's so close, maybe I could go out and talk to them on the front porch every time I see. I might not want to talk to them that day. What are you calling me to? I'm calling you to heaven on earth. Are we going to be willing to step out of the comfort, out of the convenience, out of the independence, and step into what God has called us to? It starts today. So if you're here in this room or online, I want us to pray together right now. So with heads bowed, eyes closed, not because it's the way you pray, it's just because we want to make sure you can get into a space with God where you're ready to actually listen to what he's saying to you. If you're here and you're ready to respond to Jesus, he's calling you deeper. He's calling you not just to stay awake, but to be awakened. To not just exist, but to live for the first time. That starts by recognizing that you are a sinner in need of a Savior, that you are a messed up individual, as we all are, but the only way of getting out of that mess and that muck and that problem starts by coming to Jesus, trusting him with your life. If that's you, what you do is you pray. You say, Dear Jesus, Father, forgive me, for I know what I've done. I know how self-sufficient I am. I know how fiercely independent I am. And I know how broken I am. I know that there's nights I sit alone and I barely made it through. And today, as I listen in to you, as I'm tuning my thoughts inside to where you're speaking to me right now in my heart, I hear you calling, stop doing it alone. Follow me. And today I respond to that call. And I'll just respond by saying, yep, I'll do it, Jesus, right now. But no, I'll do it with every breath, every fiber of my being. I put my full faith, trust in you and in you alone. And I'm not leaving my house, my bedroom, my bed, without following you each and every day you give me. Now, if that's you, I want to encourage you. As heads are still bowed, eyes are still shut. I want you to follow up. There's going to be someone back at that connect table. We're going to place somebody there. Find me. I don't know. Find somebody that you can share with. Hey, I said yes to Jesus today. If you're online, we're going to ask you to follow up online. We get an online host. She is ready to respond to you. Thank you for saying yes to Jesus today. It just starts there. It will bring you into a community, and that's where we want to pray next. Dear Heavenly Father, God, make this place like heaven on earth. God, that means breaking some things down, I know, Lord, in my heart first. God, as a pastor of a church, Lord, I've got some issues. Lord, I've got some comfort zones. I've got some conveniences. Lord, I want to retreat so many times. I want to escape so many times from the problems in this world, in this place, in these people. But God, you call me to step into the muck. God, you call all of us to step into the muck together. God, may we be a people who are tired of just doing fun, convenient things and lean into your call and design for our lives. May Faith Church be known as a place of such deep connection, such deep community, that even before we build homes in this place, that even before we see it tangibly seen, God, as they see us connected together, not just on Sundays, but during the week, as they see us walking down the street, as they see us go into the grocery store together, as they see us just doing life, every facet of life together, may they see that and say, whoa, what is so different about that? What is so appealing about that? When they see that and they see their loneliness and they see this connection and say, I need that more than I need a new app, more than I need a new car, more than I need a bigger house, more than I need any of those things. I need that. God, may this be a place where loneliness is defeated, where death, hell, and the grave are cast out, Father, where the Spirit of life through your Holy Spirit pours out in such a way that we feel and know you in this room, God, and you connect us and bind us, God, as you did from the church at the very beginning. God, and people see it and flock to it because they can't help but wonder what is going on in this place. May we be that people. May we be your people.